popping cork. So just recently I did a video on popping cork options. And from that video stemmed some questions to me as far as how do you rig a popping cork? What's the method you like to use when rigging a popping cork? You know, which strategy, technique, lures do you like to use? So that got me thinking a little bit, hey, why don't we do a quick tutorial on how do we rig a popping cork? And then it kind of came to me, it's like, man, it's pretty basic stuff, but I got to thinking when I lived up north in Washington State. I lived up there for 5 years to do with the military. So when I'm serving the Air Force, stationed up north, and I got to thinking, we didn't have YouTube back then, and I had to learn how to catch brown trout, rainbow trout, salmon, even bass on lakes that froze during the winter. And it was the time pre-YouTube. So yeah, we had the internet, and I was reading every article I could, reading every magazine, going to the sportsman's stores there. And so it was a different ball game at the time. You know, we didn't have tutorials like this at the touch of our finger. So I got to thinking that the simplest things when it came to fishing in rivers, lakes, and things like that, that I just truly didn't know. The techniques that were used. I got there as a saltwater fisherman, and some of the techniques and things that I was doing was way off. First off, I was fishing with things that were way too heavy, okay? And that's due to the saltwater. But I don't want to get too far into that, but that really triggered in my mind to say, hey, you know what? There's probably a lot of people out here that move here for work, for family, military, whatever that may be. What brought you to the Gulf Coast? Some of that stuff that we think simple, that maybe that's been doing it our whole life, it really can be not difficult. You just don't know, you know. And like they say, you don't know what you don't know. So I wanted to do a quick tutorial on how to rig a popping cork. We're not going to get in crazy in depth. I'm gonna go over the basic stuff, and we'll just go from there. And I'd like to get more into these things. That's what I said. Big reason I started the channel was because of these situations, and I'm trying to take a step back and say, okay, how do we rig a split shot on the bottom? You know, what hooks do we use in certain situations? So this stuff's fun to me. We're talking fishing. It's basic, but we're going to the lowest level, and it's really what I look forward to doing and what I like teaching. So with that being said, though, let's get into how do we rig a popping cork that looks something like this. All right, let's hit it. Hey guys, I wanted to cover the items that are required or needed to rig up a popping cork. Now, when I say required, we do have the required items, but there's so many more different options that are out there. But I just wanted to put down some of the main items that you see commonly used here along the Gulf Coast, or especially the Mississippi Gulf Coast. We got our jig heads, our popping cork, some split shot weights, some voodoo shrimp. We got some TKO shrimp. I think it's DOAs. You got your Kakaho minnows and your old school sparkle beetle there. And that's just some different lure options and some matrix down below. But we also have the 20-pound fluorocarbon leader. But these are some key items that will be required when you want to rig a popping cork to successfully go chase down some speckled trout and some redfish. Let's get started on the actual process of rigging a popping cork. Okay, so first things first, I got some things here on the table that I'm going to show you as we go along here. Like I said, this ain't going to be real long. Quick tutorial on how to rig a popping cork. First thing you need, I just went ahead and grabbed a 4 Horsemen pink cup style popping cork, right? Really popular down the south. If you're just getting into this, looking for a very reliable, good cork, maybe to help you get some extra strikes, can't go wrong with 4 Horsemen. There's a lot of other good corks out there, but a lot of people would argue this is the top cork. Okay, so from here, depending on your water column and where you want to fish, how deep you want to fish, you're going to need some leader line, right? And right here we got 20-pound fluoro-coated P line, okay? There's a lot of different leaders out there, depending on the weight leader that you want to use for the style of fishing you're doing. But for this purpose, we're just showing you how to rig the popping cork, how to tie the popping cork. So we'll cut off a couple feet here. I'm using this little nifty tool that I love to use. Makes things easy for clipping line and wire. All right. So now you have your cork and you have your leader, okay? So what you do then is you're gonna tie your leader line, okay? You tie your leader line to the bottom barrel swivel of your cork. I use the twist knot for this scenario most of the time. See here, 1, 2, 3, 4 twist, right? Go here, I'm trying to catch this for you guys. Pass through the hole, then back through. And that is cinched down and tight. That's the knot I traditionally use when I'm tying this scenario with a leader line onto the cork. What we'll do is we'll cut our tag line. We'll go ahead and cut our tag line. And you don't want to leave much tag line on these. And that's due to a couple things. Just excess stuff to get hung up, tangled. So you want it to kind of look something like along these lines when you're done. Okay. All right. So now we got cork. Oh, this leader is probably a little bit longer than I would traditionally use if I'm going for redfish or trout. So let's trim this back a little bit. I traditionally like to fish, but it really does depend on where you're fishing at. But I'm in that 18-inch to 24-inch range to fish with. So we trimmed it back. We got about 2.5 feet right here on the cork with the leader, right? Okay. So from here you get a couple options, right? I grabbed a couple different lures. Depending on what you're going for that day, or the fish that you're after. If I'm going after trout, a popular lure I usually use, I like to tie on the voodoo shrimp. It's a pretty popular lure down here on the Gulf Coast. I mean, it catches speckled trout, redfish, you name it. It pretty much catches anything. It's a really good shrimp lure. So what we'll go ahead and do is on the far side here, the cork's not tied. We're gonna go ahead and tie the voodoo on right now. For this scenario, you can absolutely tie the twist knot. If you would like 4 wraps, 5 wraps, cinch it down. But I am a big proponent of the polymer knot. It's just an old, faithful knot. This tutorial is really not to talk about knots, but it may be tough to see. But I traditionally tie a polymer knot on the hook side. And it's just a knot that does not fail, man. I've caught some crazy heavy fish on it, and it's been through. I've put them polymer knots through hell and back, and it makes it through. So we'll get that polymer knot cinched down on there. Sorry, that might have been tough to see. We're gonna go ahead and cut the tag end. Cut the tag end off this. Okay. And there you have it. got your voodoo shrimp tied on with your leader. With your leader line here, okay? And you, for all intents and purposes, you are set to go tie this onto your rod. Now, on this end of the rod, this end of the cork, I will also traditionally tie a twist knot on this. 3/4 twist, cinch that down. That's traditionally what I tie on this end. Braid, monofilament, anything you want to tie, you just want to make sure your knot is good and seated on this heavier wire here. Sometimes it can be a little squirrely as you're trying to get it seated on that heavy wire. It can, if it's not cinched down quite right, it can want to pull on you, or it can even pop, just depend if there's a nick in the line or something. So just check that when you tie it to the rod end. Give it a good snug pull. Make sure that it's good and tied good and tight. Okay, so there we have it. You tie this onto your rod. You're good. You're ready to go. You're ready to go catch some speckled trout. Now, with that being said, let's go over real quick if you want to rig up for live bait. And what's real popular down here is using a split shot, which looks something like this. There's a couple different styles. You got the circle split shot, and one that I've really have started to love recently is more of a triangle looking split shot. Okay, so if you're fishing a popping cork rig and on this end you're fishing live shrimp, say a lot of people will use a split shot. Will use a split shot on their leader to get that live shrimp to sink down and not swim back up and keep yourself above too high in the water column. You want to drop that split shot will weigh him down where he has to be forced down into the water column, where the speckled trout, where at least you think the speckled trout are at, right? Okay, so split shot, simple stuff right here. Called a split shot because they're split. All you're going to do here is find that happy medium where you want it on your line. You're going to put it on your leader like this, and depending on how you do it, some people would just pinch it with their hand or use some pliers. A lot of people would just pinch it with their mouth. Give a quick pinch with my mouth, and there you have it. It's pinched onto the leader line. Okay, now you got your cork tied with your 20-pound leader line, with your split shot tied in the middle, and your voodoo or your live shrimp. Okay, this combination right here, fishing the Gulf Coast with speckled trout, redfish, is absolutely deadly. Okay, deadly combination right here. So the split shot, let me go over this real quick. I'll slide my split shot depending on how much movement I think I want the shrimp to have. Sometimes I'll slide my split shot down closer to the live bait, so the shrimp can't move too much and make it too hard on the fish to catch them. Depending on how good the bite is, depending on the situation. If I'm in a big school of fish and I'm getting bite after bite, I'm gonna slide that weight down so that fish don't have to work too hard. If they're hungry and I know they're hungry and they're there, I'm sliding that split shot down a little bit so that shrimp can't be moving around making them fish chase everywhere, so it's easy money and they're tagging it. Now, what I'll do is I'll slide that split shot up. I'll slide it up some if I'm kind of in that search mode and I'm letting that shrimp swim, I'm letting that shrimp do his thing, I'm letting him move around, trying to entice a fish, the speckled trout, redfish, or flounder, or whatever you're chasing. He's swimming around, he's doing a lot of movement, he's trying to work himself off this hook, and in the meantime it's attracting fish. So that's a little tidbit that I wanted to drop on the video, that I will slide my split shot depending on the situation. So there you have it. Now let's set this down for a minute. On your on your leader line, it's extremely popular. People will fish with an 8-ounce jig head, 1/4 ounce jig head, 5/16 ounce jig head, whatever you like to fish with, the weight you like to fish with. I just wanted to bring up a quick little tip here that I like. I personally like a little bit lighter jig head when I'm fishing under a popping cork. I like the lighter jig head. To me, it tends to swim a little better. It doesn't drop so fast. If you happen to be fishing with a paddle tail, or like here I got a limbo slice matrix, or you maybe want to fish with something like the Kakaho minnow right here. And let's see, we'll go ahead and rig that up. We'll go ahead and put this jig head on, and I'll explain to you what I'm saying here. So there we go, got this rigged up, and you tie this onto the bottom of your cork. I like the jig head to be a little lighter. As you pop it in, it gives a little bit more slower fall, a little bit more natural. That's that tail flutter, a little bit natural look every time you pop that cork, right? So boom, there it goes, there it goes. I find with a heavier jig head, it's gonna up and down, up and down. Some people have preferences. That's just my preference. I find I get more strikes with a lighter jig head. Okay. Now, with the cork and the leader line, this traditional way you see a lot of people fish, you can tie whatever you think is your go-to lure with this combination of cork. There's some guys out there that you see that don't like fishing a popping cork with certain lures, and that's perfectly fine. But man, there's a lot of variety of lures out there that you can tie under a popping cork with a leader like this, and work that popping cork, pop that thing every 3, 4, 5 seconds, and it's really going to do wonders working at the lure. But it's a lot to do with the sound of the cork making commotion, making those other fish think that there's other fish feeding in the area, and that they're striking bait, and they want to go check out what's going on, and they're trying to get some of that dinner as well. So yeah, that's basically the basics of how you rig a popping cork if you're looking to go chase some speckled trout, redfish, flounder, whatever that may be. All right, guys, that's pretty much it. It's not real difficult, right? So cork, your lure, whatever that is, your leader line. We did put the split shot on to talk a little bit about fishing live bait, and we may end up doing a separate video on how to rig a live bait onto a popping cork if there is the feedback that you'd like to see that. But this strategy right here, right, fishing popping cork, your lure, the go-to lure that you like or that's hot in the area that's popular, this strategy right here, this technique will catch you speckled trout on the Mississippi Gulf Coast and the Gulf Coast in general. I guarantee it. It's a technique that I've been using for a long time. The guys, people in Louisiana use it routinely, strictly here in Mississippi. It's a go-to technique. So learn how to perfect this rig, learn how to perfect how to fish this. There's a lot of videos out there on how to properly fish this rig. First step is, how do I tie it? How do I rig it up? And hopefully we helped you out a little bit with this tutorial on how to rig a popping cork. With that being said, guys, I appreciate everybody who's started to support the channel, watch the channel. If you could do me a favor and subscribe, I did add a subscribe button down to the bottom left here. Click on that, you could subscribe. Turn on the notifications. When I post a video, you'll be the first one to know about it, and all that good stuff that comes up with YouTube. But we're trying to grow a community here of folks that just want to learn the basics of fishing, and we'll go a little bit above that, a little bit below that, and we'll keep continuing to teach. So I appreciate